A staple in early cartoon history is the TV special, one-shot episodes or mini-movies, a genre that would later become a hallmark of TV cartoon history. But for Yogi Bear, there was one special that got away, A Yellowstone Christmas, a special that was developed, pitched, rejected, and beset by problem after problem until eventually succeeding, only to fade into obscurity. And Tony Benedict, the creator of that Yogi Bear Christmas special, will tell us what happened, how he got it made, and you'll also find out how you can actually watch this lost movie today. The story of the Lost Yogi Bear Christmas special is coming up next.
At Hanna Barbera, I was hired because of my writing and drawing at UPA. The man who hired me was Alan Neidhart, a producer of the Flintstones, a new show that had just come on. It hadn't even been aired yet. And Alan introduced me to Joe Barbera. He said, Tony, I want you to meet Joe Barbera. I've known him for 20 years, and now you know him as well as I do. Joe and I got along fabulously. I was like 23 years old. So Joe and I got along very well. On my first Flintstone effort, Joe took me up to his fabulous home up at Bel Air, overlooking the entire San Fernando Valley. And we sat around a pool in the warm sunshine, writing and drawing my first Flintstone, which was called Operation Barney. A story about Barney and Fred wanted to go to see a big football game.
Mr. Slate, this is Fred Flintstone, Mr. Slate. I was calling to no Flintstone, Flint. Yeah, Fred Flintstone. That's me. I came down with a bad cold this morning, Mr. Slate.
But Barney had to call in sick. He had to back that up and had to go to a hospital and be verified by a physician. Anyway, so that led to a series of Flintstone episodes that I wrote, and then the Jetsons and Top Cat, and that was a wonderful 6 years at Hanna Barbera.
These cartoon series drove Hanna Barbera's success, and soon they were expanding into TV specials and theatrical releases. At this time, in the late 60s, Benedict developed an idea for a Yogi Bear Christmas special. It would have been Hanna Barbera's first TV special based off its famous stable of cartoon characters. Previously, their only special to include their famous creations was Alice in Wonderland, in which Fred and Barney appeared, but just for a brief cameo.
They'll never split us apart.
Titled A Jellystone Christmas, it would have been the first holiday-themed special from Hanna Barbera as well, which didn't happen until years later with 1977's A Flintstone Christmas. By the early 80s, holiday-themed specials would be a staple of the Hanna Barbera production, as well as for seasonal programming on network TV in general. So Benedict's idea was certainly ahead of the curve and could have established a successful show format for Hanna Barbera years before they eventually discovered it. He developed his idea into a complete story and then pitched it to Joe Barbera.
I had told Joe I had an idea for a wonderful Christmas show, and I would like to pitch it for him. Well, he passed on it. He said there was no villain in it, and there wasn't, and I didn't think it needed one. So I had to say goodbye to Hanna Barbera for the first time, because I had some backers who was willing to speculate on what I could do. I had to make a little film to assure them, and I got a hold of Jonathan Winters, and we made a film together called The Early Birds. This was like 11 minutes long. They were very happy with that film. It had a brief theatrical release.
Barbera rejected Benedict's pitch, and you'd think the story ends there, and it would have, except for a karmic twist of fate. Benedict's brother was a commercial pilot, and while flying a wealthy executive, he told him the story of Benedict's rejected special.
The man's name was Marvin Judd, and my brother Frank told him the story of how I had done this, submitted it, and had been rejected and was brokenhearted about it. Marvin liked the story and asked me to come up to his home in Vancouver, British Columbia. It was in December. He took me to his home, introduced me to his family and 2 young children. It was winter and snow was falling, the fireplace was lit, and he said, "Tell them a story." The end of that story is I walked out of there with a check to begin what I had called a Yellowstone Christmas.
How come we never had a Christmas?
Bears hibernate during Christmas.
There's always a first time. Santa and the Three Bears, a USA special presentation. Christmas morning at 7.
So by that amazing twist of fate, Benedict was able to secure the independent financing to make his special, no doubt a rarity in that era. But he also needed to sell it to a network to get it on the air.
I made that film without selling it yet. I had taken to all the networks. Everybody rejected it. So I had to look elsewhere. I finally wound up at Warner Brothers, where they said, well, okay, we can make a release of this story. You'll have to retitle it and bring it to feature length. That means adding more material to it, more than it needed, and didn't help the quality. It worked well as a half-hour special, but it was padded music and live action. But those were the rules of the game.
Say, did I tell you what happened last year?
Oh, Uncle Bill, not another one of those kind of stories.
Oh, this one is true, I swear it.
Tell us a story of a real Christmas.
All right.
So once again, I was set to get it finished and released. However, when I finished the film and brought it back to Warner's, they told me that the studio had been sold and the new owners didn't want to have anything to do with this project. So I'm out on the street again trying to find a producer, or I say a distributor.
I wonder what he's doing out in the snow. Let's go find out.
What the? Oh, my!
We're awfully sorry, Mr. Ranger, sir.
What happened? Christmas Eve at last. Time for old Santa to make his rounds. I don't suppose the real Saint Nick would mind me standing in to bring a little Christmas cheer to Yellowstone National Park. Those cubs are in for a real treat.
Despite another setback, Benedict wasn't about to give up at this late stage and was able to persevere and find a distributor for the film in Hollywood, just not the Hollywood you're thinking of.
After many tries, I wound up with a studio in Hollywood, Florida, of all places. And a fellow there named Shelley Sherman said, well, we can do this as using the Warner Brothers formula for a weekend matinees release. So Shelley gave me the money to pay off Warner Brothers for the money they had put into it. And he printed up 105 35 millimeter prints. And the film ran from in Thanksgiving of 1970 in 100 or so theaters across the nation at Saturday and Sunday matinees, and at 50 cents and 75 cents a ticket. In the first week, it brought in $500,000. I couldn't have been happier until I said to Shelley, where's the money? He told me how he had to spend so much money on prints, etc., and that went on for about 4 years. In the end, I got enough money to pay off my backers, but the film was a mess. It was full of commercial editions front and back, and even though it went on well for many years, it wound up being pirated for TV, or I should say home videos, and that's pretty much where it ended.
Buraya Noel hakkında her şeyi öğrenmeye geldik. Bizim canımız uyumak istemiyor.
Bak, ağaca bak. Burada bir sürü hediye var. İşte.
Oh, şuraya bak. Burada harika parlak şeyler var.
It was a winding journey from Yogi Bear TV special pitch to theatrical release as Santa and the Three Bears. It was incredible throughout all of this that Benedict was able to complete the film and to achieve a moderate financial success. Of course, Benedict lamented the need to expand the material, diluting his tighter, shorter version, but you can easily identify Yogi Bear elements in the final product. There's a stand-in for Ranger Smith, and the two younger bears were clearly adapted from material originally intended for Yogi and Boo Boo, and the mother bear was probably originally Cindy Bear. It can be fun to watch the film and spot the similarities. You can watch it yourself on YouTube in the link in the pinned comment, and we'll see you here next time on Hero Journalism.